Good evening, Razorback fans. We want to welcome you to the one, the only Hawg Talk podcast, live from the Amigo Provisions Company studios. We are part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please rate, and review our podcast. We also have our new YouTube channel up, so be sure to rate, and review that. I'm your host, Porter Hayes of Sports and Culture Arkansas, and alongside me is Jacob Davis from Arkansas Fight. And all live shows are presented by Arkansas Brewing Company in Ozark, Arkansas, as well as Bet Online, which remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from bowl seasons, NFL, and esports. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchups, players, news, and game trends at Bet Online. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. So head on over to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use your promo code BLEAV to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. And as you noticed, we said from the Amigo Provisions Company studios, we are proud to announce that they are our newest sponsor. Jacob, just give the fans and listeners a little bit of information about them and what they have to offer when it comes to Razorback stuff.
Yeah, so Amigos is they are an official vendor of Razorback gear. They do hunting, fishing, hiking, anything that you could think of. They even have deal stuff for your pets to even use there. So yeah, they're a new studio sponsor for each show. They have got some great stuff. I've got some things that are in the mail already that we've ordered. So yeah, you check those out there. It's Amigo Provisions, AMIGO provisions.com. You can see them down there at the very bottom on the ticker. If you're interested, they've got camo stuff, hats. Like, they have some really cool Razorback gear. So yeah, go over there and check them out. Really proud to have them on board the Hawg Talk podcast.
And as we lead off the show, we I know we got a lot of baseball, basketball to cover, and I know we usually cover this sort of thing on the Monday show. But when you got a new queen, when it comes to all-time wins, you have to lead the show with that. And I want to give a huge shout out to our friend Courtney Neifel on becoming the new all-time wins leader at Arkansas at 245. She is now at 246. And surpassed former head coach Carrie Deaver Boaz with 244 career wins. So big shout out to her and her accomplishments in such a short time. Back-to-back SEC championships, tournament win. Just wrapped up the Clearwater Invitational, which we'll go over that tomorrow night on the Weekly Women's Sports Report with a 3-2 record over some very, very stiff competition. So congratulations, Coach Deifel, on that. And like Hunter Yurchek said, here's to 200 more, and he's looking for some eligibility because he had his glove in that video.
That's great. Yeah, congratulations to her. They've got a good team, and you know they didn't particularly have everything go their way down in Clearwater, Florida this weekend, but they came away with some good wins, some ranked wins, and they'll be one to not to mess with come the end of the season, and I'm really excited to see what these softball girls can do.
Yeah. So I guess what we can do is, since the baseball season kicked off, we could start off with that, and they just kind of wrap things up with in Texas. So first game, they got to play Texas, and
oh yeah, You love opening with Texas.
You love beating Texas 3-2.
Absolutely.
To start off. Second game didn't go so well. I mean, our guy Cabo said that he just has never seen really Arkansas just get throttled like that. I mean, I know there was a Alabama game a couple of years ago, but they were able to bounce back. Well, that's exactly what they did because they played Oklahoma State and Twinkle Toes out there at
Rock Reggio.
Yeah, he tried to be Johnny Depp in the Pirates of the Caribbean, and 18-1. So you lose 18-6, you come back and win 18-1. So if your math is math, and 18-8, lose to 18 runs and score 18 runs, it kind of cancels that out. So, but anytime you beat Texas, and then I guess with the thing with Oklahoma State, and beating them, they were the highest rated team of the three. So, I mean, baseball and softball are the quirkiest of sports. Of if your bats are hot and you're pitching, if you get out of the starting rotation, if you can get into their bullpen and really put it on them, anything can happen. Or if your rotation comes in and you're just having the hot hand. I mean, it's just you're playing these 3 games in 3 days. It's getting you kind of set up for, your conference season. And you want to, and that's the thing, it's that middle game's hard because you really are not trying to throw everything you got out there to really ruin up your rotations when it comes for the rest of the weekend. And then it sets you up for the next weekend. It's one of those sports that is very particular on how their rotations are set and not to mess things up with their practice and their reps in between series. So a good showing, 2-1 out there at the College Baseball Showdown. And, man, I tell you what, you would have thought they were playing at a daggum Little League field. The way they were hitting those balls out of that major league ballpark. I mean, it's crazy how far those balls were going. And I can't remember, that one was what, 4? It had to have been 420. One old boy hit center field. And now
I think it was 415. Yeah, but that was still crazy power.
And just thinking about the exit velocity of these hits, I mean, they're getting up there 113. I don't know if you've ever seen the Baseball Bat Brothers. They take the newest bats and they'll go out to these parks and they'll swing off a tee and they'll register their exit velocities. And they were doing the Black Magic way back in the day, in the 90s. Those Easton, I think it was an Easton Black Magic, but I mean, those things would come off about 115, 120 miles an hour, just stupid hot. So you get into the era where either they're making the balls harder or the bats harder, and then you got the drop down bats trying to soften the bats because, I mean, sometimes you get in these leagues and they're just smoking. They're coming right off the barrel, 113. And, man, I wouldn't want to be a pitcher and have one roped at me at 115 miles an hour.
Absolutely. Yeah, they had Jared Wagner. He had a good game. He was I think 2 for 4 today. Had 5 RBIs, and I think he had 2 home runs. Maybe, let's see here. But no, he had a home run the night before and a home run today. That guy, he's stringing around some good performances. Kendall Diggs. I'd really like to see. The past couple of years, it's been all power and nothing for the Hogs. This weekend we saw them. Yeah, they hit with power, but they also did some really good situational hitting, especially with Brady Slavens. Like when he's hitting Oppo Taco to the other side of the field as a lefty, I mean, it's basically a deflating feeling there, especially when you're Oklahoma State, because you're like, man, just when you thought, okay, we're getting some momentum here in the 4th inning, and then Slavens just deflates you, and that was with 2 outs. The 5th inning of today's win against Oklahoma State lasted nearly 30 minutes because Arkansas just kept on hitting the ball and they kept on taking walks. I mean, they were a patient team. They were getting home off wild pitches. Like Arkansas was just having success. It was just their kind of day. And that's the way baseball is. Like one day it seems like everything you do is unforgivable. And then the next day it's just, man, these guys are hitting everything. And it seemed like Arkansas, every time they got it to the plate, they were either getting a hit or getting a walk, and it seemed like nothing could go wrong with them today. And like it was, I mean, it wasn't an absolute bad game against TCU. It's just the pitching. It was just it was rough. But I mean, the Texas game, you had Tiger come in late in the game and really got the save there. He was throwing some heat. You saw Hagen Smith throwing, and even Kendall Rogers. He said, man, I've seen Hagen Smith throw some stuff like 93, 94 mile per hour pitches that were just incredible. But he said he's throwing some heat now. He's up to 97, 98 miles per hour consistently. And that's what you want to see from year to year. And I was really pleased with what Hagen Smith did on Friday night. And I was really pleased by what Holland was able to do. And then, oh man, I'm going I've lost his name. Forgot who came in. But man, they to end that game. But man, they were pitching really well today and hitting the ball well, and that's a recipe for success. And you don't get that every single night, but to see that Arkansas is a complete team, even from one game to the next, I mean, it's really promising, and I think Arkansas has an opportunity here to go deep.
Well, and it showed from the scores. I mean, you come out and win a close game, a battle game, then you get blown out in the TCU game. Then you come back and you blow out Oklahoma State. I mean, that tells you what baseball does. And look, this is a team coming on their first series losing their number one guy. How are they going to respond? So, things like the TCU game's like an anomaly. You're not going to get blown out every single game. I mean, that was just like I said. Look at the very next time. You could play Oklahoma State 10 more times, and more than likely, you're not going to blow them out the way you did today. Same thing with TCU.
I was surprised Oklahoma State, it wasn't even a closer game than what it was. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was surprised that it wasn't any closer.
Well, and again, that goes to that Sunday game. That
right.
You want to win a game, but you're looking at the long picture. I mean, this is this is a long season. So you don't want to kind of throw everything out there just to prove a point to beat Arkansas when you're looking at the longer picture of look what North Carolina State did a couple years back. I mean, Arkansas just took it to them, and they didn't change the thing because they knew that, all right, what we got on the back end, let's not throw these guys and try to win this game. Let's keep everything together and know on the back end of games 2 and 3, we can come back and win. Oklahoma State could have done the same thing because you got to look at the bigger picture of what they got looking forward ahead of them and, the rest of the road of theirs.
Yeah. I like what Steve said. Arkansas blew a couple of double plays against TCU and it killed them. Yeah. And that's right. And you think about it though. And I think, they're college ball players, shouldn't be missing double plays. It should be routine. This is the first time Arkansas has had a different infield in nearly 3 years. Because you had Bob Moore and you had your Jalen Battles and you had your other guy at third base. God forgive me of forgetting his name, Caden Wallace. You essentially had those guys 2 or 3 years, and it just was repetitive for them. It was easy for them. It became just secondhand to them that whatever play we made in the infield was going to become a double play every single time. And Arkansas almost did that. They did that in a couple of times against Texas, where they were just making routine double plays. Is what DVH's teams have become known for was making those double plays, being really good defensively in the infield. And yeah, they made some mistakes, but they cleaned it up, especially when Oklahoma State did have the opportunities to go out there. And Arkansas was able to clean it up. So that was really promising that they're taking the what they learned from the night before and applying it to the next night. So, I mean, this is going to be a learning process. This is a young team, a team that hasn't been playing a lot together. Yeah, they had fall ball and stuff, but now you're getting in the meat of the schedule. Now you're trying to depend and trust your teammates, hoping that they do the right, do what they're supposed to do. I mean, you've got, let me see here, all these new players. I know you have Colley. You got Tavian Josenberger. You've got, let's see here, Jason Jones, Parker Rowland, John Bolton. I mean, all these guys that you're not used to. I mean, you haven't been around. They haven't been around Arkansas very much. I mean, the returning starters from last year was Stovall and Slavens and Diggs are the only guys that really look familiar, and Diggs is the DH. So you're having to see the coming of age of these guys, even though some of them are very mature. A lot of them are grad transfers, but Arkansas's got a lot of growing up, and I got a lot of time to get that chemistry built up. It looks promising, especially this weekend in Texas at Global Life Field.
Well, yeah, and again, this was an early test. When it comes to turning those double plays, that's repetitive. That is repetitive. I mean, that's getting timing. That's like your timing between your quarterback and your receiver, your quarterback and your running back, quarterback and your tight ends. I mean, when you're turning a double play, you're basically scoop, pitch to the second baseman, and he's throwing it. I mean, all that is repetitive. And when you're going into practice compared to game mode, it's different. So, especially in a game like TCU where you're getting blown out, you're getting flustered, everything is just not going your way, that's going to throw your timing off. That's when you see things get out of hand. It's like in basketball. If the shots are not falling, all of a sudden a 4-point margin could be an 18-point margin because you just can't get things hitting, and they are hitting everything by the time 3 threes go in, and then you're calling a timeout, 4-point, 9-0 run, you're down 13 points. So same thing in baseball. That will come with time, and especially when you have, your shortstop when it comes to your double play, your shortstop, John Bolton, that's a key component of that double play. Either it's going to the second baseman, you're pitching it to the shortstop and he's throwing to first, or the shortstop's getting it, throwing to the second baseman and he's going to first. So that timing will come, and only honestly, in the Texas game, they had one error. In the TCU game, they did not have any errors. And then in the Oklahoma State game, they had no errors. So they only had one error the whole weekend. Scored errors. But no, that's what's promising. And then coming up, we talked about this last week. You get through this gauntlet of a weekend. Now you've got like a month, February 21st, and then your first SEC series is March 17th. So you've got February, you've got almost 4 days past from being a month for between what you got non-conference and your Auburn series. You got Grambling coming up on Tuesday. So a quick 2-day turnaround playing Grambling. And then you got Eastern Illinois coming up on the 24th, 25th, and 26th in Fayetteville. After that, you've got, Wednesday, Friday, you got Wednesday, Illinois State, and then Wright State, 3rd, 4th, and 5th of March in Fayetteville. You don't leave Fayetteville until March 24th. So listen, you want to talk about what we were talking about last week in the football schedule of that 4-game stretch. You get to play a whole month of baseball at Baum Walker. Now, that can be one of them things that it could be good or it could be a curse. So, you're getting so complacent of playing at home. By the time you go to LSU, let's see how that all plays out. But no, it's really good, though, that you get a SEC series before you go to LSU, though.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get the Razorback schedule to come up for me. I heard how Grambling did this weekend. I'm not really too concerned about them, but Eastern Illinois seems to always be a team that can match Arkansas with their intensity. Arkansas, they haven't played them since I think 2020, maybe the 2019 season. So they're a very talented baseball program. They always, hang around there. And then you've got Illinois State for a midweek game, and you got Wright State, and you have Army coming to Fayetteville, and then you have Louisiana Tech, which this is a return series because Louisiana Tech played Arkansas in a 3-game series down there, I think either last season or the season before last. This is a return trip for Louisiana Tech. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them. Arkansas ended up losing that series early on, either last year or the year before that. So it'd be nice to maybe even sweep those guys. Then you've got UNLV in Fayetteville for a 2-game series, and you open SEC play against Auburn. And even though they don't have their great guy anymore, he's going on to the big leagues. But you've got about a month to get ready, get tuned up for SEC play. And right now, I really like the promise that this team has. I think if you give them give them a little bit. I think they're going to be all right to go into SEC play and probably rattle off maybe that 18-12 that Cabo thinks that Arkansas could do. Or if they do get it, it's going to be tough because you've got road games at Baton Rouge. You've got Ole Miss there, and then you got Tennessee at home, and it seems like, and you got Georgia on the road, then you got A&M at home, Mississippi State and Starkville, South Carolina and Fayetteville, Vanderbilt and Nashville to end the season. So you are literally playing almost every single top team in this league coming up this season. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of times where you're just thinking and pulling out your hair. It's like, is this Arkansas team going to make it to the NCAA tournament? Of course they are. They're going to be all right, even if you don't feel like, even if they slip up against a team every now and then, it's going to be okay. And so I think Arkansas, I think they're a good team. And yeah, and Tennessee, they got their butt kicked this weekend. And yeah, it's anytime you can see those guys up there in Knoxville take a butt whooping, it's a good thing to watch, especially with how rowdy those boys get.
Yeah, and with Eastern Illinois, they had a 3-game set with Florida A&M at Florida A&M, swept them 8-7, 4-3, and 3-0, and they're in the Ohio Valley Conference, and they were picked third to finish third, right ahead of Little Rock. So they're in the same conference as Little Rock this year. So play those guys too. So Southeastern Missouri State is number 1 Morehead State, and then Eastern Illinois is coming in. So I mean, it's going to be one of them teams, that's going to come in. You can't take any of them lightly, but, you don't want any of them to take any of them lightly because you're getting ready, that you're using this to fine tune what you need to get ready for that gauntlet of an SEC schedule. And I know that we say it in every sport, but you can say it in every sport, just how good the SEC is. And it keeps on getting, better and better with every year. Somebody's a surprise team that ends up replacing a team that might not have the best of the year. So, and I know Tennessee got beat, but I want to say that there was another – Tennessee lost twice, I want to think. Yes, they started 0-2. They didn't just get beat once. They got beat twice this weekend. So that's one of them things. Again, listen, we can laugh about it and joke about it now, but we can't take that into play when they come to Fayetteville in April. So
yeah, Grambling, they're off to a 1-2 start this season. Lost to Prairie View A&M 7-5 in the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic. Lost to Southern 3-4, and then beat Mississippi Valley State 14-4. All those games were down in Houston. So I don't think they're going to be a great team, but I think they're going to be a team that's going to be good enough, that has pop on their bats enough, that if Arkansas, isn't careful, whoever their midweek guy is going to be, I think Arkansas is going to cannot afford to avoid an upset there, or cannot afford to be upset there, especially in a midweek game.
And we got a few minutes before we go to break, but I wanted to ask your thoughts on the new rules, the new clock rules there in baseball. And it seemed to be really, I like the idea of new rules, but listen, I'm not a fan of calling a guy out on a third strike because of a timing issue, like a 30-second clock. I don't like that. I think I don't know, but then again, when it comes to base, I don't know if you assess a strike. I would assess a strike. Now, if it's a strike 2 and that you're down to your final thing and that happens, and I don't know if that's what happened on that play. I think it was a strike 3 called because he took too long in the batter's box, or you can only stand in the batter's box so long. But I just think that with these 30-second clocks, I understand that they're trying to speed up the game, but change the outcome of a game by a new rule.
Yeah. I like the clock idea. I like the idea of it, but I don't like the idea of being able to call strike 3 on a guy, especially in maybe a crucial moment of a series. I don't think I don't think I think they're trying to control too much of the beauty of the sport of baseball. I know you want to speed up the game and all that, but really, honestly, how many of these games? There's 10 Razorback games right now that are going to be on national television this season. What impact? I mean, I know you want to maybe speed up the games and that way they don't bleed over to the next ones, but look, I mean, you're putting too much of the of the art of baseball out of it. But it's like I do like the 7 inning 10 run rule. I think it's going to speed up a lot of the midweek games. I think especially when you're playing those non-conference games. I mean, I think
That
the
rule's only
less
for
innings the
conference
better.
games.
I like
That rule
that.
is only for conference games.
Yeah.
It's not. It has nothing to do with those midweek games that are not conference. That does not apply to those. The
No, it
SEC.
doesn't.
No, it implements a 10 run rule for conference games, but that I'm pretty sure only
We run because they run ruled Oklahoma State today.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have mattered because this is for a conference game. But what I'm saying is, I'm pretty sure that the coaches have to agree on this.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm pretty sure that, and that's like this. We seen an issue in the softball world where the dead time was at 3:30, and the Texas softball coach sat there and stalled the game. Kentucky went up 7-4. And the Texas softball coach stalled with pitching changes, and on a 2-out did a pinch runner to stall the game. If it went past 3:30, then it reverts back to the old inning, and it ended up being, instead of 7-4 Kentucky win, it was a 4-4 tie.
Wow.
So think about that when it comes to, yes, it is a rule, but it's like, really, you end on the. So my thing is this. I think if you're going to implement a rule, you need to bring it in and let people get used to it.
Right.
And, say like this year, we're going to do it for non-conference games, and then the next year we're going to implement it in the conference where it really matters, or the NCAAs or the regionals, because you're throwing a rule into this. Yeah, as much time as you can tell somebody, hey, you've got 30 seconds, dude, they're going to forget. You're in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
It's 3-2. You're looking at where the alignment is, who you've got up to bat, who's pitching, is a lefty or righty, where you want to go with this shot. And then by the time you know it, you're 30 seconds up, but strike 3, you're out. I mean, I think that's a horrible way to go about and punishing either or team, when it comes to you're out and you just go sit down. I mean, I just think that takes away from the game.
Yeah, I do too. I really think that, I think I do like the 30-second rule. I think like I said, I think it speeds up everything, but these things are going to take a while to get through. I think you have to at least give these players a grace period, because you've been doing this thing the same way for 100-something years, and then you're going to change it all of a sudden and expect guys to cooperate with it appropriately. I'm a Baptist. I'm a Christian. I'm a Baptist, and I don't like change. It's hard for Christians and Baptists to sit in the pews and we dispute the color of the carpet. Yeah. But this is, it's ways to, you want change, and you want to think of ways to make things different. I think this is good for college baseball, but it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. I think it's going to take some trial and error. But I don't want a game to come down to like in the College World Series, and this is the biggest moment of the season, and you get called out because you've wasted 30 seconds during a College World Series game. I think it's at that point you've got to give a little bit of grace period. Especially with the way the penultimate moment is coming. That's just my thought on it.
Well, we're going to go take a commercial break, and after the break, we're going to recap Arkansas's win over Florida, look at the final remaining games for the season, look at the SEC basketball standings, and we'll wrap it up with that. Do you need those pesky stumps ground before the winter? Your pasture brush hog, or need your driveway bladed? Here at Grind It Right Outdoor Services, we offer more than just stump grinding. We have recently expanded our business to include tractor work as well. So along with stump grinding, we offer bush hogging, land clearing, grading driveways, placing, and even spreading gravel. We are locally owned and operated, so call Danny today for a free quote at 205-377-2662 or 479-530-1641. Again, that is 205-377-2662 or 479-530-1641.
Shelby Taylor Trucking serves all your timberland needs in South Central Arkansas. With over 50 years, Shelby Taylor Trucking has established themselves as trustworthy leaders in the industry. From planting to harvesting to hauling your timber, Shelby Taylor Trucking is ready to serve you. Follow them on all social media platforms at Shelby Taylor Trucking. Learn more by visiting their website at staylortrucking.com. That's staylortrucking.com.
McCoy Drugstore of Sheridan, Arkansas, has been the top pharmacy in all of South Central Arkansas since 1895. They were also the 2020 Good Neighbor Pharmacy of the Year. They not only fix you up with your prescription with timely and friendly service, but also an elite gift shop. All your OTC needs, baby and wedding registries, tuxedo rentals, and much more. They are located at 821 North Rock Street in Sheridan. Give them a call today at 870-932-5121.
And we want to welcome you back to the Hawg Talk podcast and mention our proud sponsor, Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark, Arkansas. You can find them at 201 South 1st Street in Ozark, Arkansas. If you reach them by phone at 667-2739 to call in your order, they have all sorts of things down there. You get you a flight of beer, you prime rib on Thursday nights, and one of my favorites is the Cajun chicken pasta. They're all having, lunchtime specials, nightly specials, music, karaoke night. So if you're ever in the River Valley, want to stop in at Ozark at the Arkansas Brewing Company, go down and see Chris and Destiny Brockett at 201 South 1st Street in Ozark, Arkansas. And as well, we're back in the Amigos Provisions Studios, and we'll switch things over to basketball, where for the second time this season, Arkansas defeats Florida. Well-needed win. I mean, it's weird how the men's and women's teams have sitting there bounced and fed back and forth between 500. And they really, really needed this win over Florida. A convincing win, 84-65 win. So the biggest thing that stuck out to me was how things went in the second half. You started out, you was up 37-31 at the half, and you outscored them 47-34 in the second half. We've seen so many times here where, look at the South Carolina game. You're up big, think game's over. South Carolina comes back and makes it a game. So for them to be able to, go, they used 11-0 run to take a 30-23 lead, and then in the second half, 17-2 run. So you're talking about getting in the prime. Another game with Nick Smith Jr. back. He's starting to progress, and that's what I'm saying. These people, his first game back, they're like, oh, well, maybe Musselman should have just left him out of the lineup. And, they've been wanting him back for so long, and then he comes back, and they're like, well, he's this. I mean, it's like some of these people you just can't keep happy. We've seen that in all sports with the baseball, and, they lose to TCU. Oh, my goodness gracious. And, it's just the fact that you look at a game like this, Nick Smith Jr. is finally coming back and getting molded in with these guys, and you have a very convincing win over a well-needed and over a tough Florida team that you're hard to get wins by is when it comes to Florida.
Yeah, you're right. And Arkansas is 15-25 all time against the Florida Gators. This one was, Arkansas's third straight victory over the Florida Gators. This is the first 3-game winning streak. And you had to go all the way back to 1996 when Arkansas has won more than 2 games in a consecutive. Arkansas's beaten Florida 3 times now. Arkansas beat Florida 5 times in a row when they came into the conference back in 1991. Beat them in 92, 93, 94, 95, and 96. So that is something. It's telling us how far Florida has dropped, because Florida was unbeatable under Billy Donovan, it seemed like. Arkansas just could not win a game, whether it was at home. And definitely they've only won 2 games all time at Florida. It is hard to win down there in Gainesville, it is for the rest of the league. But Arkansas's never had the success anywhere else, or the lack of success anywhere else like they've lacked success in Florida. But you didn't have Colin Castleton to really worry about. He was a guy that averaged 16.7 rebounds this season. You didn't have to worry about them, but Florida has some pretty good guard play. Arkansas just shut them down on offense and really did things to challenge them defensively. Makai Mitchell, he had a double-double. You talk about Jalen Graham. For his deficiencies on defense, he's been a stud offensively the past couple of weeks. And I don't think he gets enough credit. He did have that 26 points. I think he had like 5 rebounds. Let me see here.
7.
He had 7 rebounds, actually. So the guy, he came in, and it's all about matchups, too. Because you think about, why didn't Jalen Graham do this against A&M? Well, A&M had some big bruisers down low. But when you have somebody as athletic and such a mismatch like Jalen Graham was for the guys at Florida, he exposed every single thing, every single flaw that the Gators had. And Eric Musselman was saying, attack it. And how many possessions in a row did Jalen Graham get late in that first half and in there in the second half when he was reinserted at the 13-minute mark? How many consecutive trips did Arkansas have down the floor where they gave it to Jalen Graham and he took care of the business? And that was really encouraging to see. Maybe that keeps him amped up as they play Georgia. And I think this is another game where, Georgia's a good defensive team, but can Jalen Graham be that mismatch against Georgia on Wednesday night at 8 p.m.? Another SEC Network game. And, you have 4 games left in the season, in the regular season. And then you take your 3-game gauntlet, 2 of them on the road, 1 of them at home against Kentucky. This is a huge game for Arkansas against Georgia. They are, I think, we said they wanted, if the best case scenario was a 7-3 record in the final 10 games. Right now, they've lost 2, 1, 5. Yeah. And so you got your eyes set here. You beat Georgia, and then you go on the road and take care of maybe 1 of the 2, and then beat Kentucky at home. I think you find your way to be a pretty solid seed come March Madness, something we couldn't say just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, the biggest thing that stuck out to me, and we mentioned in last week's show, you start giving Nick Smith Jr. more minutes. Guess what? We're talking about all these minutes that, Anthony Black has been doing, and Devontae Davis and Ricky Council. Well, Black had 35 minutes instead of 38 or 40. Ricky Council played 32 instead of 38, 40. Devontae Davis had 23 instead of that 30. So you're getting guys. And also another thing, you're looking at how much Anthony Black was being forced to shoot the ball. He only took 6 attempts. Jordan Walsh only took 4 attempts. Nick Smith Jr., again, yes, he went 4 for 12, but when you're getting in the groove of, coming back in that starting role, he was 4 for 12, had 10 points, but he was 2 for 2 from the free throw line. Another thing, Ricky Council, he took 10 shots. He was 6 of 10 for 15 points. And then again, what we were stated, Jalen Graham, if some of these guys are not hitting, if Nick Smith Jr. is having a rough night, you got a guy that Jalen Graham pops up and hits 26. Say Jalen Graham's not having a good game, Devo comes up and hits 20. You've had the opportunity with these guys that if somebody is coming down, that's what we were talking about. A big, key, important part of this team is that's why it was important to get Nick Smith Jr. back, because that adds that guy. If somebody's falling off, somebody's there to pick them up. And again, time will tell. They've got a couple more games left. You got SEC tournament. The way things are going. If you say 8-7, 9-7, or you get in that range, you're going to be okay when it comes to SEC time. We talked about, the fact that you do not want to depend on your SEC tournament to be your you're having to win more games in the SEC tournament to get in the NCAA bid. I mean, that's playing Russian roulette. You do not want to do that. Another thing that we talked about was, those slow starts. They were 15 for 27, shot 55.6% in the first half, 7 for 8 from the free throw line. Still having that 3-point shooting woes. Nick Smith Jr. is not really that big 3-point threat right now. He went 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. So, and then you went 14 for 17 for the game in free throw percentage. That's what wins you these type of games, where if you got somebody that's just not producing when it comes to the scoring, you're starting to get back. Again, giving guys a 5 to 8 minute rest when they're used to playing all the time. If you can give them a 3-minute break in the first half, you can stretch their minutes to where they're taking 3-4 minutes a half off, getting that rhythm going. It's really going to be beneficial, because I'm telling you right now, the looking at the schedule and what they have, and we're talking about the 3 games that are coming up and then the final 3 games, and just how important, Jacob's coming back. And Jacob, I'll bring you back in. What I was talking about, the importance of the win 3. If you can't rely on those final 3 games of that season to win, where you're having to depend on those wins, and SEC wins get you that the NCAA tournament bid. So winning that game against Florida, winning that game, that loss against A&M really, again, we talked about how that's the one that kind of hurts you, because now you're sitting at 7-7. You beat Georgia, that puts you at 8-7. All right, so that's got you at 8-7 with Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky left to play. Tennessee's kind of fallen off, but you've got them at Tuesday night at Knoxville. So just that eliminates that whole kind of thing. Or you're talking about Tennessee's playing down, because, of course, we thought that A&M was, they're ranked, and then Mississippi State. You're coming off of 2. You come off against Mississippi State, lost that one, and Texas A&M. 2 games that you really needed, because that puts you pressure on how many games you've got to win to close out the season before you hit the SEC tournament.
Yeah. And I think another thing you got to point out here is, you get this game against Georgia, and you look at the closeness between all these teams, from Tennessee to Georgia. There's 3 games between all those teams. You look at it, this is probably the best this SEC conference has been in a very long time, as far as being deep. Because you look at Vanderbilt, they've won 5 games in a row. They beat Missouri, they beat Tennessee on a last-second buzzer beater. I mean, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen with Tennessee, is losing back-to-back games at the buzzer. And then you go and you beat Alabama at home, and then you come out and lay an egg yesterday against Kentucky. I mean, that was just the weirdest thing to me. Like, Tennessee's, kind of like Arkansas, like they are really extremely talented on defense, but then on offense, they're just not very good. Like, some days they can be in a groove and just be great with Vescovi and Ziegler and just be one of the best teams in the league. And then there's some nights they're just not great at all. You look at Kentucky, they're 9-5. Auburn 8-6. Vanderbilt 8-6. I mean, who would have thought Vanderbilt, the way that this whole Jerry Stackhouse experiment is gone, and everybody thought, man, this Arkansas loss to Vanderbilt, this is the end of the season, nothing's going to work out. And then you think about it, Vanderbilt, yeah, they're in the 80 in the net rankings, but I mean, that was not a bad loss as you thought it was earlier in the season. And then the Mississippi State loss, I mean, it isn't end of the world kind of thing, because they're still in the bubble being talked about too. So yeah, you've got a couple of chances here to, I don't know if you would call it, maybe making your resume a little bit more, make it a little bit more cool, maybe make it stand out a little bit. But I think Arkansas has got a chance here to close the season out on a good note, and have the selection committee think, okay, this Arkansas team, they're coming along at the right time. They got their best player back. They've had to fight injuries all year. They've had to fight lineup stuff. It's all about how you finish in the season. And in the final 10 games of the regular season and the SEC tournament doesn't really matter unless you're a tournament champion. And right now, I think Arkansas, if they win 2 of the next 3, they may get at least a single bye. They won't get the double bye, but they'll at least get a single bye, which plays into being not having you'll have at least 1 day fresher legs than your opponent.
Well, and again, just not having to rely on the SEC tournament to define your bid. That's what you try to stay away from. I want to show you. All right, so Vanderbilt started off 3-6 in the SEC.
Yeah.
We're talking about this 5-game win streak. Do you know what their last loss was?
No, man, I ain't paid attention.
101-44 against Alabama.
My gosh.
They got beat 101-44 and then
Wow.
went on a 5-game win streak. And they go to LSU on the 22nd. So you want to talk about, again, anything can happen in this league. So basically, pretty much starting off 3-6 in the season, and Vanderbilt is 1 spot away from getting a double bye in the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you how crazy of a year this is. Another thing I wanted to bring up, really, really important when we talk about the Florida win. You're sitting at 7-7 with them. So if you hang around with them, you've got the tiebreaker over them because you got the win.
Yeah.
But again, with Missouri, you're at 7-7 with Missouri. Vanderbilt's right there at 8-6. So if you get tied with Vanderbilt, they're going to have the tiebreaker over you. These next games are very, very important when it comes to the Georgia game in Bud Walton Arena is probably one of the, I won't say it's the most important, but it's one of the most important games of this season. Because, again, getting a home win, and then, again, that puts you 1 game over 500, puts you at 8-7 with Alabama, Tennessee, because you got Alabama at Tennessee and then Kentucky. So you can't really basically it's crazy because do you want to lose 2 in a row to Tennessee and then rely on that Kentucky game at home to get you at 500? I mean, that's going to be tough when it comes to just how important this Georgia game is. Another thing Steve brought up, just those long scoring droughts. When we're talking about where we are at in the season and the tournament play, you go on a long scoring drought in the SEC tournament or the NCAA tournament, you're going to get run out of the court. Again, when we were talking about that 7-10 game, and if you're that 7 seed playing against that 10 seed, and they just go on a 15-0 run, there goes your tournament hopes right there. You're not going to come back from something like that.
No. And I pulled up the net rankings here too. Not that the net means much, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the top 50. Then you have Florida at 53. And then Vanderbilt at 89. So you have 10 teams there in the top 100 of the net rankings. That is just absolutely nuts. But yeah you have the Arkansas has the opportunity to win 3 more quad 1 games. That'll boost a resume too when it comes to the SEC tournament. I know we can talk about all the stuff on the court, and I think we dissected everything, every single thing that I think we could dissect this season. Like, it's just been a crazy year basketball wise. You've had to deal with not only Nick Smith, you thought you had everything figured out, and you lose Trevin Brazile. And then you pretty much lose like 70% of your offense. And you had to figure out, like, what the heck are we going to do now? Because you have your leading scorer in Ricky Council, but Ricky Council wasn't meant to be your leading scorer this season. He was meant to be your second or third guy to depend on. And then you had Devo Davis come up out of nowhere because, I mean, nobody really thought Devo was going to be your scoring option. Now he's a guy that, you can depend on to be like a Stanley Amude or another guy that he can be a streaky 3-point shooter and make a difference. But having Nick Smith back is going to be huge for this run. And I know that a lot of people, we're thinking, oh, is Nick Smith going to come back? Is he going to be a distraction for this team? The more time that he gets on the court and playing, and and you get into this big stretch. You got this Georgia game coming up on Wednesday night, and then you get to go on the road, and this is the prove me time here. Nick Smith has got the chance to go out there and prove to guys that I am the guy. This is my team, and we're gonna take March by the horns, and we're gonna make another deep run. I think Arkansas has that confidence. The way they're able to go out there and beat Florida, even though they were without Castleton, was really impressive to me, because the one thing that we look all the way back into with Maui during the Maui Invitational is how Arkansas has not been able to close all year, especially whether it was on the road or at a neutral site. They had not been able to close a game, even at home. So being able to close against Florida, even when Arkansas, I mean, Florida was up there for a little while. They were going nose to nose with Arkansas. But Arkansas's ability to close, can they do it on Wednesday? And if they do get a 10-point plus lead against Alabama or a Tennessee on the road, are they going to be able to sustain it and win those games? That's what we need to know. I think, Steve, I think that's a very, very big point there that Steve made, was ending these long scoring droughts. I think with Nick Smith on the floor, I think you have the ability to do that. Arkansas is really good too. I've noticed that over the past 3 weeks, is their transition game has been 10 times leaps and bounds better than what it has been previously.
When you bring in another guard, when you bring in another guard with fresh legs, and like I said, when your guys are playing 35 plus minutes every single game, you're bringing Nick Smith back in the lineup. Now he's gelled back into the team. He's in the starting rotation. I mean, it's perfect time. I mean, like I said, and you got the Georgia, but that gets him another game full strength, because they're really going to need him to step up. Alabama, and between him and Anthony Black, Council, Graham, all these guys, they're gonna need 2 of those 5 guys, 2 of the 6 guys. I mean, you can bring Walsh into the mix.
Yeah,
when it comes to scores, they're gonna need 2 of those 6 guys every one of these games to step up and give you the amount of points when it comes to beating these teams, because you're not gonna sit there, have 3 guys with 10, 12 points and expect to beat Alabama, Tennessee, or Kentucky. You've got to have somebody get you 18 to 20, somebody with 17, 18, and really with the free throw shooting, keep them off the boards, and hopefully get your 3-point shooting intact. Let Nick Smith Jr. get some 3-point shots in before the tournament, because that could end up being, no matter what happens with this team, not having that confident 3-point shooter could be that could really hurt them in the tournament.
Yeah. And now I remember, I will go back to something you said earlier with Nick Smith going 4 for 12. You remember who's somebody else that didn't really have a very high shooting percentage but shot a lot of stuff last year in the last couple of years? J.D. Note. This is the kind of system that Musselman likes to have when he has a lead guard, a guard that's been proving himself that he can score the ball. You get your best scorer back. You let him take alpha shots. You let him take all the shots he wants to, because he's proven it. He has a track record that he can score at will. And even though he's not scoring at will right now, he had 10 points on Saturday night. But the guy showed against Oklahoma when he had 21 points, and against Greensboro when he had the 20 points there. The guy can score, and he's lethal. I think you give the guy the opportunity to shoot 16 to 20 shots a game. You let the offense run through him, and then you have the guys that are physical down low. Like you've got the Mitchell twins who've been absolute bruisers down low. You let those guys work on the offensive glass. I don't think even though you have Nick Smith take all these shots, I still think Arkansas is very good in the post. And one thing that we haven't mentioned was Arkansas's ability to score in the post. Hogstats.com. They showed a stat, and I retweeted it here last night. I'm going to try to pull that up real quick if you don't mind. But Arkansas scored 52 points in the paint last night. I'm trying to find it here. I'm sorry. It's a little bit I can't find where it is. They scored 52 points, which is the most in the SEC, or in the most Arkansas scored in an SEC game since 2013 and 2014 in a regulation SEC game. So They show that they can bruise down low. Arkansas had I think they scored 48, 49 against LSU. Obviously, it's against these bad teams, but they do have the ability to get those second chance points to really out physical these other teams in the conference too. I think that's one thing that Musselman made a point of during the offseason was I'm going to have to get some guys that are going to be some bruisers. Tired of losing to the Baylors and the Dukes of the world because they have more physical men than what I have is what Musselman's thinking. Now he's got that. And I think, yeah, you can. I have more confidence now in Musselman getting it done because he has that alpha score and he has those bruisers down low to get the rebounds and be able to put back. I think you have a more potent paint presence down there.
Well, and getting them more minutes too. Getting them conditioned to play. You know, Mikhail had 12, Mackay had 20. I mean, you're talking about bruisers, but you got to be able to have them to where they're not getting gassed, banging down there. Get them in condition to where they're in there. I'm not saying each of them has to have 20 minutes, but if you can get both of them a good 12 to 15 minutes to where they're conditioned, where they're banging with these guys to give the other ones a break, that's going to bode well opposed to just throwing them out there. Yeah, 2-3 trips down the floor. Now they're gassed, and then they're just starting to get used up because it doesn't matter. You let some guy score on you 2-3 possessions in a row. That whole time that you're out there is kind of meaningless because you let in the lead or them go on a little 4-0 run. You've got to be out there and get their legs. As much as we need to get Nick Smith Jr. in the lineup, you're going to have to keep on getting these guys out there down low and kind of, and on the defensive side of the ball, holding Florida to 37% shooting for the game, 19%, 4 for 21 from the three-point line. Yeah, they hit 17 of 21 on the free throws, but that holding them to only 3 threes when that's been one of the Achilles heels of this team, I mean, is huge. You need to have more games like these. And this is a team that was above you in the standings. So it ain't like that you're doing this against a lower level opponent. This is something you're even with it. So again, that mentality and that motivation now, all right, we can hang with the Florida. All right, let's go take care of business against Georgia, boost up that confidence, get Nick Smith some more minutes, get the Twins more minutes down low, get them conditioned for tournament time. And it's time to hit high gear now because you don't have that many games left between the regular season SEC and the NCAA tournament left.
No, you don't. Here's the actual tweet. I knew I pinned it somewhere. Razorback men's basketball had 52 points in the paint versus Florida on Saturday. It's most in an SEC game in the Musselman era. Most since the 54 points they scored in an overtime loss to LSU on January 12, 2019. The 52 points by Arkansas on Saturday was in regulation length SEC game, the most they've scored since 2013, 2014. So it's been a while since they've been that stout in the paint. But, Arkansas, that's the thing, though. A lot of this season is, they knew they couldn't really depend on a 3-point scoring. So they had to figure out ways to, and I know you can't exchange 2s for 3s, but Arkansas was doing their best to really stay in these games. And that's really the big difference when you think about these losses that they had. Look at these losses that Arkansas suffered within 1 or 2 possessions over the past few months. They lost by 3 to LSU on the road. They lost to Auburn, ended up being by 12 points, but Arkansas was in that game. They were leading, they were tied with Alabama at home with 3 minutes left before a timeout. Alabama called and Brandon Miller hit 3 straight threes. They lost by 13 to Vanderbilt on the road. They lost by 3 to Missouri, which is a 1-possession loss. You think about the 1-possession 3-point loss to Baylor, and then you lost a 2-possession game to Mississippi State because you could not score from the outside. Same thing with Texas A&M. If they could have closed, they could have won that game on Saturday. Like these 1 to 2 possession games, Arkansas just needs to learn to close. I think that is the difference. I think you think, man, we're going to be okay even without Nick Smith, and now that you have Nick Smith back, what's going to happen? And I think that's the big thing here is being able to have be able to not make teams play just zone, because that's what most of these teams have been throwing out maybe it's not just that 2-3 zone. There was times last night where Florida was throwing a 2-1-2 zone against Arkansas, and Arkansas was having success again it. So you're being able to, and that's what Eric Musselman wants to do, is the space and pace kind of offense, being able to space it out, get your guys sometimes 5 outs, sometimes 4 outs. And now you have the ability to knock out more shots because you're spreading the defense out on the floor, and you're finding the gaps for Ricky Council and the Jalen Grahams and the Jordan Walshes to slash and dash and score the basketball. So this is really going to help Arkansas long-term in throughout this rest of the regular season and into the SEC tournament play. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, and then again, the 3 free throw shooting. How much of that's big in these 1 to 2 possession games where your free throw shooting's down, you're shooting 60, 70%, and now you're not having to foul to chase the 3 for 2, exchange 2 for 3s. So you got to look at that too. Some of these games just got away from them. But the games like the Mississippi State game, you look at that Baylor game, the Baylor game in general, because you were right there within 5, and then that 3 that I was talking about that again got posted later on. I mean, it's a catch-22. You want the guy to take the open shot. You can't fault him more, but it's like me in that moment. I wish that he would kind of just slowed it down, used the shot clock, and then scored. Because again, you're not going to take. You're going to take the three that you're shooting 20-30% from, or you're going to try a high percentage layup and 1 foul. Then you got your 3 points. So there's a lot of these games. The Missouri game, another one. Let's see about getting your free throws in line, and that can really help you moving forward. But again, tournament time, free throws, So, but this team's shape. You got Nick Smith Jr. back. He looks like he's getting better and better as the season. I know with 4 regular season games left, but hey, it's better than nothing, and I can't wait to see his progression and how he really makes a big difference, because Jacob, was just as well as any one of these Razorback fans that they don't want this season to be that biggest what if. Man, we could have made a Final Four if he would have played, if he would have been able to come back and play the rest of the season. He's back. He's getting in fine shape. So let's see what happens and hope for a healthy rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm ready to see what he can do through these next few weeks. I want him to go out there and prove to these guys that, hey, I am in an NBA lottery pick worthy player. And I think he's going to have the opportunity to do that. If he shows that, I think he can move. I think he's right now sitting between the 6 and the 8 and the 10 spot just because of his injury proneness on his knee. But he's going to be able to show his worth right now. And I think in the NBA draft right now, they have somebody that's, I know this is totally off a Razorback topic, but just saying, like, they have a international player currently going number 1 overall. Then they have 2 G League guys going 2 and 3. And then they have the Brandon Miller kid from Alabama going at number 4. And then, like, it's just a jumble up of guys. So Nick Smith probably could clearly move his name back up into the top 5 there. So that would be really cool to see.
Well, again, they play Georgia Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. It will be on the SEC Network. Saturday at Alabama, ESPN or ESPN2 at 1 o'clock on Saturday. They go to Tennessee. You can see that game at ESPN2. And then, of course, the big Saturday matchup at 1 p.m. on CBS. So all the last 4 games of the season will be on big network TV. You don't have to stream it, so be looking forward to that. But, Jacob, you got anything else, man?
Man, I think I'm good tonight. Guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, go to our any podcast platform you like to listen to us on. Give us a subscription there. Hit the notification bell. That way you can go in there and whenever we do upload our podcast, you can be able to get us there. Give us a subscribe and maybe just even give us a review. It doesn't have to be a good one.
Yeah. But that will do it for this episode of the Hawg Talk Podcast. We'll be back right here with you tomorrow night, 6 or 6:30 for the weekly Women's Sports Report. I'm Porter Hayes, and we will catch you tomorrow.